Hi, I'm Drew.
And I'm Sam.
And welcome to Drewling Samantics.
Morning, mate.
Aha, there he is.
Here I am.
Shimmying in, beer in hand. Good morning, how you doing?
I'm very well, thank you, mate. Cheers.
There we go.
How's things
Now-
your end, all right?
But yeah, busy running around doing bits and pieces. I know you've been busy. You were up and down again. You all the usual.
Yes.
I'm now. I want to jump straight into something.
Well, okay, feel free.
I was just having a little look back. I was having a look at over a few old episodes, etc. And I realised there's something that we've been involved in. We've never really discussed in full, for want of a better word, because we spent a summer doing classic plays. I mean, you know. You can't get more classic than An Ideal Husband and the Victorian thriller that I was doing, Gaslight. But we've also done a lot. If you think about it, we've both done a lot of new writing.
Well, yeah, I mean, throughout our careers, both of us, yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, we've worked for lots of different companies in lots of different spheres of new writing. And we've never really discussed the subject of new writing ourselves.
No,
Do you know
well,
what I
no, we
mean?
haven't. But for people listening in that perhaps might not quite understand where we're going with it. So obviously new writing is things that are written that are new. And you could potentially argue, I suppose, that anything is new writing, because if you're making any changes, then that is something new. Yes, we've done classics, Oscar Wilde stuff and various other things like that. And every sort of production, or not every, but a lot of musical productions I've been part of are musicals that already exist. But aside from that, you could argue most things are new writing. Even with film and TV, everything is technically new writing, unless it's literally a reboot, like a complete remake. So a film that was done 40, 50 years ago that's being done again now, and the script is almost identical. Things like that. But when we say new writing, it's sort of, when you're talking about it now, it has sort of more a specific kind of meaning, doesn't it?
Yeah, I was thinking, and I agree. Like you say, you know, film, TV, stuff like that. It because of what it is, it's being produced, you know, more often. It is that those are all, you know, yeah. I mean, a writer or a producer comes up with an idea for a film, gives it to a screenwriter, then it's pitched to money men, etc., and it gets made. But the process is it's similar, because working with companies that you've done some work in schools and some community stuff. I've done plays that they're commissioned. So you get a writer. I did a play called Ghost on the Wire, and that was commissioned by Southwark Council, who wanted something specifically about the area and about the life and the development of Southwark itself and along the River Thames. But then there are plays that I did a play called Invisible Me at the New Wimbledon Theatre, the studio there, and that was a piece of work written by a playwright who wanted to get his work on, so he produced it. And a lot of times that when people aren't commissioned, they've got to find the money themselves, writers or producers. And he had to find Bren Gosling was the writer. He had to pretty much find the money himself, put the play on, hope that people liked it, and it became, you know, commercially viable to fund maybe taking it further.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the work that I've. But that new writing, as you know, comes from different areas, doesn't it? It springs up in different ways.
Yeah. So I mean, as you sort of alluded to, I've been part of quite a lot of perhaps more of the educational side of new writing. So long-term listeners and watchers know Callan Durrant, a good friend of both of ours, who owns and runs Reflex Theatre Company, who I've worked with and on the board of directors, etc. He, most of the time, creates theatre or produces theatre that is designed as educational tools for children. So I've done 2 tours of Norfolk and Suffolk with him, with the company, doing TIE, theatre in education, about things like abuse, manipulation, drug and alcohol and other substance abuse, things that we've talked about before. Reading stuff in books doesn't appeal to every kind of person, or learning things in the traditional way. So being able to produce theatre that educates can be a really, really valuable tool. And that's what Reflex do primarily. We have some other stuff, particularly stuff that's being produced now. Secret's a brand new show, which is I can't say anything about. You have to go and see it to find out about it. And equally, Call Me John was a previous production based on writings of Callan's grandfather.
Yeah.
But the majority of the work for Reflex has been theatre and education, brand new writing to teach about issues and important topics, subjects.
Has that been commissioned? Has he been approached by the education department and schools? So that's been
sort of not approached necessarily. It's stuff that they've produced and then or Reflex have produced and then gone targeted to councils to get the funding to take it out on the road. Primarily, schools got it for free, I think, to begin with on the trials, but now I think it is something. There is a nominal fee that schools can bring it in as an extra tool. So there's sort of different levels to it, that side, rather than it being as simple as someone approaching a theatre company to produce something. It had been produced, or it was done in essence, and there were sort of previews or elements, or the script was there in its bare bones, and then it needed the funding to come in to be able to take it to the next level. And the return on that for the council was that schools got it for free to begin with, to work out whether it was of value. I'm probably explaining that really badly. I think if we went back to Callan's episode when he came on the show, he probably explained it a lot better. Equally, we'll bring him back on at some point and he can fix all the errors that I've just committed about. So you've got that side of things. Then equally, we had on the show the brilliant Simon Floyd, who I worked with on another project, equally educational, but certainly not aimed at children per se. How's Your Father was the show, a sort of half play, half musical about dads and fatherhood and how they are seen by governments and the public when it comes to being a parent. And that was sort of half and half entertainment purposes, because it was funny, it was sad, it was entertaining as a piece of theatre, but equally it was used as a tool for social workers and people working in councils doing things to do with parental support, fatherhood, child sort of benefit and support, and all those sorts of elements to it. So again, educational, but not that the theatre and education stuff for schools isn't entertaining, because it obviously is, but it has one single purpose, and that's the education side of it. That's the target. Whereas with How's Your Father, there was sort of a bit of both, because people could come and watch it and find it entertaining if they're not involved in the world of child support or anything like that. But equally, it was quite useful, and we had some incredible feedback when we took it to specific groups, councils, and things like that. So that was great. And then just to mention another one, to show another sort of level to it, again, sorry, I should say that was supported. There was funding for that project, again, because it had benefits coming back in. So it wasn't something that they reached out and said, we need a theatre company to make this. The theatre company made it, or sort of started it and said, look, this is what we could produce if you support us, and this is why you'd benefit from it. So sort of a back and forth there. Another recent one to talk about, back in through September and in a bit of October, the brilliant Callum Donnelly. There's a theme here, who has also been on the show.
Who's also been on.
Fantastic comedian, lovely guy.
Lovely guy.
Friend of mine. He and one of his comedy writing partners, Robin Hatcher, created a show called Tonight Someone Dies. And I was very lucky that I got to go and see one of its preview shows. basically a comic murder mystery farce. Absolutely, and I don't think he'll mind me saying this, absolutely no educational value to it whatsoever. Because it was just a piece of funny writing. Callum's written it with Robin, and yeah, it's brilliant. Hopefully, I believe they got some early funding. I don't know how that works when it comes to a non-educational piece, and they're hoping to take it further. Whether it'll be a bigger tour, whether it'll be a residential piece, I don't know. But do keep eyes out for that. If it does happen, obviously, we will promote as much as we can, and we'll let you all know what goes on. But the reason I brought all those up, and I should say congratulations to Robin and particularly to Callum and to all the cast. Including Megan, who's a mutual friend of mine and Callum's. We both worked with her in pantomime. She was in the show with Callum as well. It was brilliant. It was non-stop laughter, hilarious from start to finish. Actor musos on stage, brilliantly written script, very, very funny. So I'm sure it will go further. And as I said, I was thrilled to be invited to be able to go along and see one of the early shows, and really, really enjoyed it. But the reason I bring all these up is because, as you said, there are sort of different levels and different ways of going about new writing. These are all new writing pieces. They are equal in that sense, but their purpose, the direction they're going, is completely different. And you've sort of got that blend from one end to the other of completely entertainment purposes, almost entirely educational purposes, and the crossover in between. So there are different levels to it, and we're just looking at it from obviously theatrical side of things in this current point of the discussion.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you say, there are so many different levels, and there are so many different theatres. I mean, there are theatres of new writing that are there to birth playwrights and to produce their work and give playwrights a platform. And it's just that, I mean, if you're looking at what Callum and Simon are doing, the educational side, that the platform is there. They don't have to look for it. They just have to provide something that to fit that. There is always there's a venue. If we're looking at TIE in schools, there are many venues. Yeah. But if you're looking at, like the couple of the plays that I did, Invisible Me, which by Bren Gosling which Bren backed. He had an idea for a play. He did three one-act plays or just over one act length, and did a little festival, and he got this together and he worked really hard, but he took the gamble. He took, and it is a gamble, because you don't know. You've got, if it's your own money, you are literally putting your money where your mouth is, or your money where your pen's gone, or whatever. You literally are going, okay, I think this will work. I'll take the financial risk. If it pays off, wonderful. But it was all on him. He hired the theatre. He employed his director, his three actors, and we had the job of producing something that wasn't a piece of entertainment, but it had to kind of honour, his script. But Wimbledon are not, known for, new writing per se. But, there are those spaces that, fringe theatres particularly, because, you've got a small theatre. You don't have to put a lot of bums on seats to make money back. So, and the fringe is where, a lot of experimentation is done, and say you can take a risk. It's not an expensive risk. Yeah. But I mean, like one of my favourite pieces of work I did, looking at how then after a new piece is the Fighting Irish was done at the Coventry Belgrade, and with the new artistic director. Who's been in place now quite some time, Corey Campbell. He has a wonderful way of working anyway. It's like, take a new piece of work and we're just going to explore it and see where we go. But it was written by a guy called Jamie Goff, wrote it about his four uncles, Coventry Irish people, and they were boxers, they were campaigners, they were. An awful lot of Irish politics was in the play, but it won a competition, and then Coventry Belgrade said, "Okay, well, we'll produce it," and we sat there on the first day of rehearsal with a script that could have run 4 hours, and after rehearsals, and we'll talk more about creating the characters, but we pared it down to about an hour and 20 minutes straight through play. That was amazing to do and critically acclaimed, and we're waiting now to see if it'll have another lifestyle.
So when you say it won a competition, did it won the competition based on people looking at the script against various other scripts and going, this has the best potential to become something commercially viable and successful and beneficial to the public to see? Is that kind of the idea?
I think it's half and half that. Yeah, I think that was half of it. I think originally they took the play and it was, as Jamie admitted, that I've overwritten this. There's too much here, but this is the first stage, and it was read and basically, like you said, people went, this needs to go further. We need to take this to the next stage now of it, getting a theatre company, getting a director, and working at it and really, paring this down. Because it was written about Coventry, it was in many respects site specific. There was nowhere else you could do this play in its first life. It had to be done in Coventry somewhere, somehow. It got picked up by the Belgrade, so it had enormous resources thrown at it. We had a big company of actors. There was no sort of necessity to skimp on actors. It was put on in the studio theatre in the Belgrade, which is a big theatre. It seats, a lot of people, hundreds of people. Purpose-built stage. We had dialect coaches.
It was a boxing ring, wasn't it? The stage.
It was a boxing ring, yes. They sunk the theatre down and we put a boxing ring. It all took place in the ring and outside on. But we had to say we had dialect coaches because not all of us are Irish. And those that were needed to learn different accents from different parts of Ireland. Movement teachers and we had, and it always stuns me because I did weekly rep in the summer and we had 5 days rehearsal. This had 6 weeks rehearsal.
It's mad, isn't it?
It went from a script like an old fashioned telephone directory, and it ended up with a nice pared down script that ran boom, no problem. But it took a long time. And that is to me, when you hear new writing, that is to me the definition of new writing, a play taken from page to stage. Yeah. But there are other, there are other elements of like you said, there are stuff that is commissioned and goes somewhere, that has somewhere to go. That didn't have a home. It did. It knew where it should be.
Yes, yeah.
But and I look at other plays. Like one of my favourite plays recently was James Graham's Dear England, about the England football team and Gareth Southgate. And it was, James Graham is probably one of the best writers in the country at the moment. With James, and along with Richard Bean, turning out some amazing work. I mean, I think at one point James Graham had 3 plays on in the West End at the same time. He
Insane,
could choose
it?
Brilliant,
justifiably so, of course.
Yeah, I mean, there's amazing. And it's an amazing piece of writing. But that was written. It was given to the National Theatre. Again, they have the resources. They have the clout to go. Okay, we'll put this on. If you put a new play at the National Theatre, you kind of know you're going to get an audience, even though James Graham isn't widely known to an awful lot of people, maybe to a lot of theatre going public. But if I was a punter sitting there going, what am I going to go and see tonight? It wouldn't be the author's name that would drag me in. In James's case, it would now because he's big, but it would be like, oh, it's a play about football. Now if you're sitting there as a football fan, you go, I might go and see that, or just the subject matter itself, you go, I think that's great.
I think that's an interesting one in this particular example. Now, people we're going to get complaints, but I was going to be very, very what's the word? Not narrow-minded, but sort of. I was going to stereotype a little bit and say usually, and this is very much like out there because I'm an example of the opposite, as are you. Usually, theatre and football aren't interlocking. They're not two interests that I would say a lot of people have at the same time. it's certainly not unheard of, and people will probably there'll be outroar now and we'll have no. Oh, I like football and theatre. Not saying it can't happen, but I would say as a rule, you wouldn't regularly find someone in the terraces of Old Trafford or the Etihad or wherever, Anfield, equally going to the West End or to massive theatres each week as well. Those two don't tend to cross over. I'm not saying you can't like both, of course you can, but that's where I find Dear England interesting because, as you say, it wouldn't necessarily have sold on the playwright's name, although there would be some allocation to that. There'd also be some that it's just the National Theatre, so people will go anyway because the National Theatre is so successful and so impressive. But I wonder if it brought in new people because of the subject matter, but equally slightly put off traditional theatre goers because of the subject matter. I think it'd be interesting to know, like, the demographic of people that went to Dear England. And it was a fabulous piece of theatre.
Yeah.
I'm a self-confessed lover of both football and theatre, and I thought it was brilliantly done. But I do wonder, as a piece of that you could consider new writing, although we're saying perhaps it's not quite in the same vein as some other things, but it's a subject matter that probably has been done very rarely in theatre. So it's
I mean,
that way. Like,
I don't. I mean, I can't think of another. I can think of a Up and Under, the rugby piece, done at Whole Truck many years ago. I did Red Lion, which is not a new piece of writing, but that's a football piece, and we did that in football clubs. But it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I mean, what is the draw there? I think with Dear England, there was, because you've got the England manager, it's heavily about Gareth Southgate and around, but there were those big characters in that you kind of know about them. They are national figures. So you were they're almost historical figures. They're not, but they have.
Maybe they are. Maybe they are.
But they will become. I guess they will become. Yeah, but I mean,
there
if you
are iconic moments that they've been involved in that will survive a long time.
Yeah.
And I guess it's interesting because football is, I believe, the most widely followed sport in the world and possibly the most supported. Maybe not on numbers because of just how many people there are in America. So things like American football and baseball have enormous followings as well. But it's such an enormous topic that perhaps that is another reason behind its success. And is that a consideration when you're doing new writing? Do you go, look, I'm looking for a niche, but something that's popular? There can't be many of those left. Or using it to, I saw a production of Romeo and Juliet years and years ago, which was, they'd made the two families rival football gangs. I can't remember who it was now.
There's so many of those, haven't they? They've been gangsters. They've been,
exactly,
different races, different religions. That's all. Whatever will spark a debate, I suppose, in that. But it is interesting, isn't it? Because why? I mean, if you look at new writing and from a playwright's point of view, they sit down, and they go, right, I'm going to write about this, whether they know about it, whatever the subject matter is. And then where do what is the idea behind that? Is it just the compulsion to literally write? Is it a subject matter that they are concerned with themselves? They have some connection with. It's interesting. I mean, I know I always ask if I do a new piece of writing and I don't know where it comes from. I always ask, excuse me, if the writer's in the room, where does this come from? Why? Fighting Irish, we knew Jamie McGough. It was a competition. He wrote about what he knew, his brothers. He was Coventry Irish. It was, it ticked all the boxes, and it ticked all his writing boxes. But I mean, Invisible Me with Bren, this is a subject it was about loneliness and isolation. He said, I think this is a subject that he said, I've got some connection with, but I think it's just an interesting,
Hmm.
right, three characters and their journeys, they all tie together at the end, they all intermingle at the end. But ostensibly, there are three lonely people on stage, not talking and not communicating with each other. And at the end, there is some connection. But, it's like, well, why? Why did you do that? And where do you see it going from here? It was interesting to know where it comes from.
Yeah, I guess there's a financial question as well, because there's a lot of proven theatre. There's a lot, and I guess this spreads into sort of film and TV as well. Films are made of TV series, spin-offs. They take certain characters and go, they've been successful, let's keep it going. This was a franchise that worked really well, let's put a new spin on it. It's not new writing per se, it's new ideas within an existing theme. But financially speaking, you can pretty much guarantee that the loyal following, or those that have liked something before, will give something that is on the same route a go. Oscar Wilde is a perfect example. There are lots of theatre goers out there who will spot something local to them that says Oscar Wilde and go, well, I know I like Oscar Wilde, so I'll go to that. It's not new writing. It may be a new turn on something or a slight adaptation, but essentially it's...
But there's no risk.
Yeah, exactly that.
It's not
what you know.
I mean, if any production, it's a new production, but it's not a new writing. There's no risk involved. There are Shakespeare plays that I'll go and see. There are Shakespeare plays that I'm not keen on, but there's no risk, and
in essence what you're going to get.
Exactly. And that's
been completely butchered. In which case, it gets publicity in that sense anyway. So,
but it's still not new writing.
No. No, absolutely.
But going right artistically, go on, frog in the throat. Artistically, when you do a piece of writing and you're in a room, you've got a script, you've read it a few times, you're starting to learn the lines or starting to think about, it's a gift, isn't it?
Oh, God.
Because you don't have to live up to anyone's expectations. You've got a completely blank canvas and just those words. So, I know, and even more, some people say, oh, wasn't it wonderful to have the writer in the room? And there are other people sitting there going, yeah, can we keep him out or her out for a little while? Keep them out for a little while. Let us get hold of it. And then,
Yeah.
So, you've worked quite closely with the writers very closely with the writers of the stuff that you've done, haven't you?
Well, Game Over would be a good example. The musical about suicide and mental health. That was created by the very talented Dave Bain. Equally, been on the show. Hope you're well, Dave. Come back sometime soon. And that was completely and utterly brand new, but he was a flexible enough producer-writer that, yes, he was there through it and directing it, but he gave us the scope to take the characters on a journey and adapt them. And it was almost like, here are the bare bones, make what you will of it. If you're going completely the wrong direction of something that I had in my head, I'll pull you back in. But equally, I'm not going to close you off. I'm not going to go, here is the exact thing I want to happen, just go and do it. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, it does. And I'm not saying it's always a bad thing, because a director, producer, writer, what have you, may have this exact vision in their head, and it may be brilliant. But there is more often than not the opportunity with new writing to put your spin on something, to change something up, to have a go at something, to go, what do you think about blah? Do you think it would work if? How about it? We're not suggesting that we as actors have better ideas than the writers or producers or directors. That's not the case. But I believe new writing works best when someone passes it on and sort of goes, I've done this much with it. What can you bring to this? What can you add to it? I'm still in control. It's still my baby. It's still the thing that I've created. But I think it's incredibly ignorant almost to think that this idea goes in one direction, that I cannot vie off this path that I've envisaged for it, because no one's brain is that capable. I'm sure there are people that are that capable, but I think development rooms, anything that is workshopped, I've done various things in workshop stage, as have you. It gives the opportunity for people to go, how about it becomes this team effort? And I think that's what makes the best new writing turn into these hugely successful products.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because when we did Fighting Irish, it was about people that existed. I mean, the character I played, Billy Duffin, he existed. He was a boxing trainer. People in the audience that came to see it knew him.
So really? Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the four brothers that the play was ostensibly about came to see the show. Billy had trained them as boxers. They knew him personally. He was his fighting father figure. And they all said, "Oh yeah, there's this about Billy," and I would ask Jamie, was he like this? Did he, did he was he strict? Did he drink? Did he, was he a gambler? I mean, he was, he suffered from kidney problems. Did that make him, and they said, no, he was fit as a fiddle until he dropped dead. He was, what were his politics? All that? Those are facts. So I could build the character from facts. There were photographs of him. So I had my hair cut. I combed my hair in a certain way. I didn't look like him, but I could be him. Yeah. And that was true for all of us across the board. Particularly when the four guys that played the four brothers met the four guys in the bar after the show. There they were. And there's a photograph of our four actors and the other four guys. And it's like, amazing. Wow. And it was really emotional because and then they all came over and went, "Oh, Billy did this and Billy did that," and so those facts were there, so I could build on that. But with other plays that we've done, that there's nothing. When I did Invisible Me, the character in that, I just.
So he didn't exist, did he? He wasn't a real person.
It was like a play. You've got to create this character. And what's the wonderful thing is, it had been done previously, but it had been a Zoom during the Unwelcome Guest. It hadn't really gone anywhere. There was no way to explore it. This was a proper, we had a rehearsal period. Bren he knew then what didn't work. It was almost as if it had a couple of rehearsed readings, but we really created the characters from nothing.
Yeah.
And I didn't watch the previous iteration. But it was really free because, we'd say to him, what do you, this scene, I'm sitting alone in this cafe. How did you see it? Do you want him sad or whatever? He said, and he'd go, I don't know. So I go, okay, I'm going to play him happy. It's my birthday. I'm happy about my birthday. I'm on my own. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to have a big breakfast, go and drive my cab, and then I'm going to go home. Character's a cab driver. And then something else happens on his birthday. And then we were into territory like, well, you don't really know now how I'm going to. He went, oh, I've never seen it like that. I never saw him doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that works. So there is that freedom. I mean, if you're doing, it's like, if you do a Shakespeare play or you do, you Oscar Wilde, all those plays, the characters are so well known. There is, there's very little way you're going to go with them.
There are expectations to live up to, aren't there?
But also the information within the play is tried and tested. You don't need to rewrite a play if it's yes, people make cuts and do things. It isn't necessary to get the play right. It's done. It's been done for years and years and years. It's just another production, or not just that, but this is a production. Doesn't need to go anywhere new. Different costumes, different director, making one character more important in this production than they had been previously. But the thing about new writing is, in a new play, you can go anywhere with it, and do anything. And that's a joy of doing it. There is a risk because, you could put a play on and no one come to see it because they just don't, I don't know what this is. I've got no bloody interest in it. Obviously there are little sales blurbs and things. This play is about blah, blah, blah. And people go, nah, or, oh, I like that. And it's wonderful as well when you see reviews about them, how a new play is received. It's like, oh, this is a subject matter that needed to be said, or this is pure entertainment. It was wonderful. I didn't like the set. I didn't like him, her, them, they. Music was shit or whatever. And you go, really? Oh, okay. But you have to take it on the chin. there's writers
New
that sit there.
writing is a gamble, but I
Yeah.
think it's possibly one of the ways that, from our perspective, you get the biggest opportunities to do what you do, to seize
Yeah.
that opportunity. And I think probably a good place to leave it, mate.
Hi, listeners and watchers. It's Drew and Sam here.
Hello. Sorry to interrupt ourselves, but we do have a rather important Drewling Samantics announcement.
Yes, as YouTube viewers will be able to tell by the state of our facial hair, we are very much in the middle of our respective Christmas shows.
Yes, and as a result, we are working flat out with barely a time to breathe or create brilliant podcast content for you. So, sadly, we have decided that this is our final episode of 2024.
We had planned on releasing some more, but due to being so busy and because we didn't want to release anything that wasn't the high quality that we strive for and that you deserve, we've decided it's best to wait and come back in the new year.
Yes, Drewling Samantics will return, fresh-faced and ready to go in 2025.
Thank you, as always, for all your incredible support. We will see you very soon. Bye.
Thanks again for watching this episode of Drewling Samantics.
Please make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video.
Don't forget, we're also available as audio only. Just search Drewling Samantics in any good podcast app. And please support us on social media. All our links and handles are on screen now.
We love welcoming new followers and subscribers, so why not share with your family and friends so they can join in too? Thanks very much. See you next time.